People walk into the woods and don't come back the same. Not lost, not injured, changed. Their eyes hold something different. Their hands shake when they talk about it. And the story they tell doesn't quite fit together. Something happened out there in the trees, in the silence between birdsong and wind, something that follows them home and won't let go. Dennis Martin was 6 years old when he vanished in the Great Smoky Mountains in 1969. His family was setting up camp, kids playing hide-and-seek in the clearing. Dennis ran behind a bush to surprise his father. He never came out. Search teams covered hundreds of miles. Dogs picked up nothing. Helicopters found no trace. For 5 days, the forest swallowed every clue. Then a tourist, miles from the search zone, heard a cry in the night. Not a child's scream. Something else. Something that made him pack up and leave before sunrise. Dennis was never found. But others who've searched those same ridges report hearing children laughing where no children should be. Seeing movement in the undergrowth that stops the moment you turn your head. Geraldine Largay went hiking the Appalachian Trail in 2013. Experienced. Prepared. She stepped off the path to use the bathroom and couldn't find her way back. Search crews combed the area for weeks. Nothing. 2 years later, her body was found less than 2 miles from the trail. Her journal was with her. She'd survived for weeks, writing entries every day, rational and clear. Then the entries changed. She wrote about voices calling her name, footsteps circling her tent at night, shadows that moved wrong. Her final words were a list of names, people she'd never mentioned before, written over and over until the pen ran dry. Jared Adadero was 3 when he disappeared on a trail in Colorado in 1999. His group turned a corner. He didn't. Bloodhounds tracked his scent to a spot where it just stopped, like he'd been lifted straight up. 4 years later, his clothes were found on a mountain slope 12 miles away, arranged in a neat pile. His shoes placed side by side. No explanation for how they got there. Searchers reported compasses spinning, GPS units failing, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched from the trees. But some people do come back. That's when it gets stranger. A woman named Claire went missing in Oregon for 3 days. When rangers found her, she was walking in circles, muttering coordinates that didn't match any map. She claimed she'd been trying to find the trail but kept ending up at the same tree, a massive oak with a split trunk. Every time she tried to leave, she'd blink and be back at that tree. Time felt wrong. The sun didn't move. She'd check her watch and hours had passed in what felt like minutes. When they brought her out, her watch had stopped at the exact moment she went off trail. She won't hike anymore. Says the forest isn't what we think it is. A man in Washington vanished for 2 weeks, found dehydrated, confused, sitting by a stream 5 miles from where he'd started. He said he'd been following a child through the woods, a little girl in old-fashioned clothes who kept looking back at him, gesturing for him to follow. Every time he got close, she'd be farther away. He walked for what felt like hours. When he stopped, exhausted, he looked up and the girl was gone. The sun was setting, but it had been morning when he started following her. His family says he's different now. Wakes up at night, staring out the window at the tree line, like he's waiting for something. The patterns repeat. People step away from the trail for just a moment. Compasses fail. Time distorts. Voices call from empty clearings. And those who return can't shake the feeling that something's still watching, waiting in the gaps between trees, patient and hungry. What happens in those woods isn't random. There's a reason search dogs refuse to track certain scents. A reason experienced hikers report trails that shouldn't exist, paths that loop back on themselves, landmarks that appear in the wrong places. The forest has rules we don't understand. The stairs are one of those rules. Park rangers don't talk about them openly, but if you press, some will admit it. Staircases in the middle of nowhere, not attached to anything. No foundation, no building, just stairs leading up to nothing or down into earth. Brick, wood, metal, carpet runners still intact. Some look new. Others are rotting, covered in moss. They appear in places no construction crew could reach. A ranger in Missouri found one deep in a section of forest with no trails. Carpet on the steps, intact and clean. He radioed it in. His supervisor told him to mark the location and walk away. Don't touch it. Don't climb it. Don't take pictures. When he asked why, the line went quiet for a long moment. Then, just leave it alone. Other rangers report the same thing. Stairs that weren't there last week suddenly appear. They file reports. The reports disappear, no explanation, no follow-up. One ranger admitted he'd climbed a set once, years ago, before he knew better. He said the air felt wrong at the top, thick and electric, like standing too close to power lines. He looked down and couldn't see the ground anymore, just fog. When he climbed back down, his radio was full of static and his watch had gained 3 hours. Then there's the missing time. Hikers who return after days of being lost often can't account for the time. They remember walking, sitting down to rest, then suddenly it's dark or it's been 2 days. Their phones are dead, batteries drained despite being fully charged. Some have photos on their cameras they don't remember taking. Blurry shots of trees, close-ups of dirt, images of themselves asleep. One man found a video on his phone, 12 minutes long, of him walking through the woods at night. He has no memory of filming it. In the video, he's talking to someone off camera, laughing, responding to questions. But there's no other voice, just his, answering something no one else can hear. The really disturbing part? Sometimes you can hear footsteps in the background, matching his pace exactly. Search and rescue teams notice other things. Prints that start human and change. Tracks that double back and overlap in ways that don't match normal walking patterns. Camps found abandoned with food still warm. Tents zipped from the outside. Fires that burned down to ash, but the ground around them is frozen solid. There are areas they won't search anymore. Zones marked on internal maps with notations that never make it to public records. High disappearance rates, equipment failure, psychological distress in search teams. One section of forest in Montana is labeled simply, "Do not enter after dark." No explanation in the file. Just that note, updated every year since 1978. And the voices never stop. Hikers report hearing their names called in familiar voices. Parents, partners, children. Always just out of sight. Always leading deeper. Experienced outdoorsmen, people who know better, still follow those voices. They describe it as compulsive, like being pulled. They know it's wrong but can't stop walking toward it. A survival instructor with 20 years of experience disappeared last year. His class heard him shout that he'd found the trail. They followed his voice for an hour. It kept moving, always ahead, always his voice. When dawn came, they realized they'd been walking in circles. He was never found. His voice kept calling for 3 more days, getting fainter, until it finally stopped. The woods don't follow our rules. Time, direction, physics, they all bend in places we're not supposed to see. And when people stumble into those places, the forest doesn't always let them leave the same way they came in. Some don't leave at all. Search teams know this. Rangers know this. They mark their maps, file their reports, and keep walking those trails. Because someone has to. But they also know that every forest has gaps, spaces between the trees where something else lives, something patient, something that's always been there, waiting for the next person to step off the trail. And when you walk into the woods, it's watching. Every step off the trail, every moment you think you're alone, it knows. The people who vanished, the ones who came back different, they all felt it too. That pull, that certainty that something just beyond the trees is waiting. Maybe it's been waiting for you all along.